Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And Dragon, we're less than a week away from Thanksgiving, and around this time of year, we like to take a moment to reflect and take pause on what we're thankful for. And Dragon, my oh my, you know what I'm thankful for?
I think it's the same thing I'm thankful for.
I'm thankful for Hanks.
Yes, Tom
Funny
Hanks.
guy, that Tom Hanks. Everything he says is funny. Dragon, tonight we are doing the first of what will hopefully be an annual tradition for us. We're doing Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I've been trying to get this one done for a while because I just love the idea of Thanksgiving. I just think it's so fun.
Yeah, so we've already got like ideas for future Thanksgivings worked out in our heads. But Dragon, the first one, coincidentally, this is the 30th anniversary of Big. I actually went to go see a Fathom event, my first Fathom event that I went to go see.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I ever saw this movie, Dragon. This was a movie that I've been sleeping on for a long time. And I got to tell you, it kind of lives up to the hype, and I'm glad I saw it before the Shazam trailer came out, because I got a lot of the lot of what Shazam was paying homage to. And I don't know. I like this movie a lot. Like I feel like it's because it's not a movie I grew up on and I don't have it memorized or anything. I feel like that's both a good and a bad thing for me. Like it's a good thing because I can appreciate it on its own merits, and it's not like a movie like certain other movies in the 80s. Certain other late. I'm not going to be so cryptic. Yeah, Ghostbusters is a movie, Dragon, that famously like. I like it, but it's I feel like having not grown up with it, having just seen it a couple times in my adulthood, I'm like, I don't really get the hype. But this, it's like I feel like this is an example where it's a little bit more I appreciate it a little bit more, and I feel like the hype doesn't ruin it as much.
Yeah, because I mean, this is it's practically an American classic. I mean, everybody knows Big. Everyone knows the references to Big. I mean, again, it's so ingrained in the culture. It feels just so natural. I think it's the thing. It feels so natural before it's hype.
It's just very wholesome, and you're right. It's one of those things where basically, Dragon, going in, the only thing I knew like three things about this movie. I knew the basic premise of like, okay, Tom Hanks is a little kid in an adult's body. I knew the fortune teller gimmick, and I knew the image that we see before you. The famous piano scene. Other than that, Dragon, I got to say, kind of blank slate for me. So, it's like the Simpsons writers like to make jokes where, movies like The Godfather, if they stitch together all the references to The Godfather, you could basically recreate The Godfather. Or, Family Guy has famously literally done that with Star Wars and stuff like that. I feel like Big is like a cultural institution, and, it doesn't have the, I don't know, going into like, say something like A Christmas Story is an institution in its own right.
Imagine
But
a
I
cross between Jaws and A Christmas Story, and you end up with
all
Big.
compensates for it. This like kind of hits a perfect middle ground for me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, I don't want to dwell too much on the fandom. Just suffice to say, Dragon, I'm a casual fan of this movie. I feel like I'd like it more if I grew up on it, but I can very much appreciate it from a historical perspective in terms of, basically launching Tom. And it's got a very positive message to it, and I like it a lot. I just it's one of those movies I kind of wish that I grew up on. I don't know why my mom and dad never showed this to me as a kid, but because I always remember them talking about it, but for some reason there was never like a night in the house where it's like, all right, let's sit down and watch Big. And I kind of regret that, Dragon, because I feel like this is a movie that if I saw it as a kid, I would have positive memories of.
Yeah, for me, kind of Tom Hanks always is a name that jumped out to me ever since Toy Story. So, of course, growing up, you had kind of that going for it. It was like, okay, basically, I kind of like the stars sort of aligned. Forgive me if I'm just going to overuse that phrase a few times throughout this thing. So, just I'll try to save more of it towards like final thoughts if I can help it. But let's just say I think a lot of things coalesced. to kind of not only get me to see Big, but to also just kind of do the production of Big itself. And I feel, for me, I saw it I saw it a lot on VH1 when they did I Love the '80s. Like that was when they did 1988. They had a lot of fun riffing on Big. And beyond that, of course, I mean, I've seen like the A&E biography on Tom Hanks for years, and I remember like they always had like basically the still we have before us here of the piano was like there was like the main tease of what Big was all about. Like Tom Hanks just plays kind of this lovable man child who dances on the piano with Robert Loggia. Okay, I'm interested. And for that point forward, I was just kind of I was definitely intrigued by it, and eventually I checked it out, and it's just oh my god, it lived up to the hype for me so much. It's great. So, all that said, should I jump into the backstory?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I keep the backstory simple here, folks. A Big starts like this. It all starts with Gary Ross. Gary Ross was a writer in Hollywood. He wrote one of my favorite movies. He wrote Dave, which is Kevin Kline playing the president. It was such a good movie. It's a wonderful movie. I highly recommend it to everybody. He wrote Dave, which is basically kind of the Big equivalent to basically a really nice guy in the White House. It's essentially what Dave is. And he also directed The Hunger Games for any Hunger Games fans out there. So he joked during a lunch that he was having about, basically they were making fun of transformation premises in movies. Like, oh, imagine if like this guy transformed into that, like a shaggy dog, or vice versa. And they kind of landed on, okay, what if a kid wanted to be transformed into adult overnight? Like what if that kid's wish came true? What if that was the way of the method of transformation? So they kind of ran with that. And it kind of like as a light bulb moment for Gary Ross. He ran it by one of his friends, and Spielberg. You're right if you're thinking, how many Spielbergs are there in Hollywood? Same family. You're on the right track. So he pitched it to Dan Spielberg. The two co-wrote it and they developed it. And I think this is the X factor to making Big. Here's the X factor. So the two of them developed the idea, really fun and conversationally. They spent 2 hours just kind of geeking out and like talking about, oh, what if this happened? What if this happens? Basically, like a 2-hour pitch between friends. And at the end of the 2 hours, they had 70% of the movie figured out. And it was just kind of in the safe, no pressure, like no studios telling you to create something. It's just kind of fun, and they came up with it. They pitched it to James L. Brooks, producer extraordinaire, big name on The Simpsons, various iconic movies in his own right. So James L. Brooks, big producer guy. Pitch it to him. Then they get into the real development phase around 1984. Bear in mind, movie comes out in 88, so in 84 they've been working on this. So they really took their time to get the toy company and Macmillan right. That was the main sticking point. They wanted to get like all that. That's where the movie's heart really was. They wanted to get all that stuff settled and right. One something really notable is really cool. I found out is that they used a coin. They had a coin that they would flip. They taped this coin to the wall, and if they ever had a writing dispute like who's right, who's wrong, they would flip the coin to figure out who's right and who's wrong. But they were so simpatico. They only used it once to pick the title because they changed the title from like Grown Up to Big because it was catchier and kind of a little nostalgic connect for Gary Ross, whose father would want to be big, so his father put him on his shoulders. So let's see. So eventually, Brooks. Once the script's figured out, James L. Brooks, he takes the script, he brings it to Penny Marshall, gets her to direct. Penny Marshall, of course, known for Laverne and Shirley, big time. He related to Gary Marshall, again, huge career in her own right. Directed a League of Their Own as well after this. So he had faith in her. He's like, hey, look, Penny, you take it, you run with it. I don't know how much of a director she was before this. This may have been her debut. I'm not sure. It was like one of the first big studio films she got, to my knowledge. So
I'm pretty sure they mentioned on the Fathom events that it was her debut.
Oh, cool.
At least on the big screen. I'm pretty sure she did TV movies before that.
That makes sense. That's what that must be what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it has to be like so. Again, I think she had maybe directed a few episodes of Laverne and Shirley. Be my guess. That's probably how she got her start. So anyway, so she directs. Another reason she directs is that John Landis and Steven Spielberg himself turned down the movies, and we know that years later, because Spielberg turned down this movie, he does Hook years later.
Good form.
So You're probably wondering how Tom Hanks gets cast in Big. Of course, Tom Hanks, the huge icon. Literally, the guy on the poster. You don't have a movie without Tom Hanks on this poster. You really don't. So, Penny Marshall, she knew Tom Hanks from the Paramount TV days because Tom Hanks, one of his early appearances was on Happy Days, and he had been bosom buddies and everything. They were all in the Paramount lot, so they're all really close by and simpatico and palsy. So she takes the Tom Hanks first, like the first choice, Tom Hanks, no brainer. But the problem was Tom Hanks at this point in his career. This is interesting. So Tom Hanks's first big success commercially was Splash. That was the thing that put him on. That was the thing that got his name in the big screen, really. And following that, he had done a number.
I keep forgetting about Splash.
That's the thing. Splash was the biggie for him, and then he had done other movies that again aren't bad, but they're just really not. They weren't commercial successes. Like he did Bachelor Party, did other things. They weren't really like they weren't fantastic movies, but they were like he was good in them. Like Tom Hanks has never given a bad performance to my knowledge. He's always just he's been he either has fun with the role or he gives us all in it. So he's never been in bad form, to quote the book. So the point is, so Tom Hanks at this point, so after Splash, he had done a number of movies and they were really not doing well. So he was kind of at a point of desperation in his career early on. And he had done Dragnet. So he was working on Dragnet at the time. And again, that was his hope to kind of revitalize his career. So again, he was busy doing that while they were trying to get Big off the ground. So what happens is, so he's busy. They really want him, but again, it's kind of like a Marty McFly situation from Back to the Future. He's the first choice, but he's busy. So then they go to Robert De Niro. They go to a number of celebrities, and eventually they land on De Niro. And De Niro was in the clear. He was going to do the movie. It was going to be altered a little bit. It was going to be instead of a kid from New Jersey, it was going to be like a kind of a mean streets kind of street smart take on Big. So which Penny Marshall had experience in, so it might have worked out. Who knows? But De Niro, essentially, De Niro, he gets out. He wants out of the production. He gets out of there. But importantly, his name, he drops out of the production. But De Niro's name held a lot of cachet, so people heard, oh my God, that Robert De Niro movie. So all the big names like Robert Loggia, Elizabeth Perkins, they're all going to the movie because of De Niro. So that's how they get the rest of their talent aside from Hanks. And eventually, essentially, what they last bit here is that they waited for Hanks. Eventually, they waited for Tom Hanks to come back. At the cost of the ever-growing competition. Basically, there were three other movies that came out that were like body change movies. That were about people growing up or something along those lines. It was like three other transformation movies came out before this in '88. Eventually, so. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of like, oh boy, we might be smoked in the competition. They kind of stole our idea. They're kind of like, how are we going to compete? So they're it's again, this is Tom Hanks after one major commercial success, and now he's not the Tom Hanks we know today. So it's not a guarantee. So if this doesn't work, if people aren't sold on Tom Hanks, this movie's going to bomb. So they had this carnival premiere. They had a carnival much like the carnival in the movie. They had it set up. And of course, in the end of the day, Big is the classic that is a classic in every sense, and that's what we have today. 30 years later, we're still talking about Big. And coincidentally, last bit here, FAO Schwarz, the toy store, the famous toy store with the piano that we're looking at right now, has reopened this very day, this very week, this very day that we're at the time we're recording this. FAO Schwarz is opened after many years of not being around anymore. How wonderfully coincidental is that, TV?
What's the deal with that, Dragon? It was it just abandoned, or did they take over another location, or what?
Well, essentially, Tika, the sad fact of the matter is, and you kind of see this if anyone remembers it from Elf, from Elf, you had Gimbals, and in those movies, basically the old school toy department store is kind of going out of vogue in New York. So they were kind of getting rid of them, and they're kind of I don't know. I mean, the spaces were available. I don't know. They closed them up. They kind of went out of business for a while, and I guess this is like the latest in the long lines of them bringing it back. I don't know if Gimbals ever came back, but this one, it's come back, and I had no idea it was coming back either this year. I guess they wanted to tie into the 30th anniversary of Big, maybe to kind of draw some support. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of trippy. It's a shame that happens because we need more of those kind of old school, like the big setups for like the department store size toy shops. Like we don't see those anymore.
I'll always remember. I'm not sure what the name of it is. I don't remember, but the one from Home Alone 2.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, God, I'm blanking on it too because I'm wondering if there's the fictional name or if there's the real name because that's the thing. Some of them, I keep Here's the thing: when these department stores keep showing up in movies, I keep thinking I keep thinking they're fake, but then I realize, oh wait, no, they're actually based on real stores. All right, so that's all you need to know about the production of Big. So Tiki, now of course, now Big technically there's an audio documentary which really didn't cut the mustard for us. So we kind of found a loophole in the whole commentary of it all here, folks. So we're watching just to clarify, because there are two versions of Big you can watch. There's an extended version, there's a theatrical version. Rest assured, we're just tackling the theatrical version, classic version, the one that Tiki and I have both seen, and the one that many people have seen.
Yeah, and we're going to do our level best to make this a well-rounded conversation that you don't necessarily need to be watching the movie to follow along with. And Dragon, I'm going to warn you right now, because because I don't have the nostalgia for this one. I'm not quite sure what to say. We'll see as we go along. I don't know. But this is it's a great movie, but I'm not quite. I don't have a lot of talking points for it, so you'll kind of have to guide the conversation along here. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and count up to 3 and say go. When I say go, we'll all press play. All right, Dragon. With that in mind, you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, give me 1 sec to get my copy synced up. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make sure that it's as close to timestamp 00 as possible. Okay. All right. Big commentary in 1, 2, 3, go. All right. Old school 20th Century Fox logo.
So, Tiki, rewatching Big, I found a lot of things. I never really had to go over with a fine-tooth comb before. And doing so, I found a lot of really interesting things about it. And this was one of them. We start with your Cavern of the Wizard. And, Big's one of those movies where you kind of get to the good parts if you rewatch it when it just kind of comes on TV or something. It's like you wait to basically to the McMillan Toys section onwards. That's usually my experience with it. And so again, it's been years since I've really kind of watched it from start to finish at this juncture. So we start with Cavern of the Wizard. Now, Cavern of the Wizard was a game that was created for the movie, and the thing I picked up on is that it's a great foreshadow of the choice that we have in Act 3. Like the game itself is somewhat of a symbol. I could be just talking out my butt here. It seems like a symbol of childhood, a computer game for a child. Yet it's kind of a symbol of the future via the computer. Of course, the computer is going to be a big thing, and Josh is interested in that in the future and growing up. But again, he's a kid at the same time. So it's kind of a symbol of both being a kid and being an adult, or the future, if you will.
Yeah.
Act 1, amazingly, in 4 minutes, we set up so much plot in 4 minutes. Again, all this very naturally. And I think the word of the day on this one's naturally, because everything it jives so well. We have, think about all the stuff that we set up in this that pays off throughout the movie. All in 4 minutes, by the way. We set up that Josh likes the computer. We see the bunk beds. We see, his dynamic with Billy. He likes sports. Again, all of this comes back in a big way. We see him having the drawbacks of being a kid, where he's like, he has to take out the trash, and because of that, he screws up the game. We're going to see some major size discrepancies, like after that 4 minute mark. A lot of this is all in the opening.
Yeah, very economic storytelling. I remember the first time I saw this, I was kind of worried if it was going to drag on with the the parts where he's a kid, but no, it's pretty good paced. It's very well paced.
Yeah. So okay, this is something mind blowing. I held off on this in the back, sir, because I wanted to bring this up through the thing here. So David Moscow plays young Josh Basket, and he has a more important role than I ever gave him credit for before, because I never knew this about the movie. David Moscow, every scene you see of Tom Hanks in this movie, to my understanding, starts with David Moscow doing the scene, then Tom Hanks watching him intently as he does the scene, then mimicking him as best he can. So that kid is in every scene you see of Tom Hanks. Which amazes me to no one, because you see the manners.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, if you really look at this kid, you can see the seamless mannerisms that, again, that Tom Hanks copied. It looks like a seamless transition. They added, they gave Moscow these contacts. They gave him brown eyes because when Moscow was initially cast, that was during the De Niro days, and Moscow was auditioning for Billy. He was going to be Billy when De Niro was, going to be Josh, and you're going to cast a kid that looked like De Niro. So, of course, when that went out the window, they had the reference from this guy in the casting processes. Well, now we need a kid that looks like Tom Hanks. Oh my God, this kid will do the trick. He's perfect. Of course, vice versa. And Tom Hanks can mimic the kid, and he'll go like gangbusters. I don't know who made that choice. I assume Penny Marshall. If it was her, she made an excellent choice.
De Niro would have just changed the whole dynamic of this thing.
It would have. I think it might have been a little bit more dramatic than it ended up being. That's a guess, but Of course, got the Spider-Man walkie-talkies, always cool. I completely forgot they were Spider-Man walkie-talkies, by the way. I knew they were red. I just never knew they were Spider-Man.
And this movie definitely embraces the year it was set in. We've got the with the computer game and everything like that. As soon as I saw the computer game, I was like, good old Dragon. I used to play games like that at school, in my middle school but it was like math-based games, but it was the same basic deal. It was like, like type in 2 + 2 = 4 to defeat the math wizard.
So, in getting to the big kind of meat and potatoes, what gets our story going here, I love, again, just in 4 minutes, we put everything into play. Like we set up, Josh, he likes, he's kind of in that age where he's starting to get interested in girls, but he's not quite there. We can work up the nerve to talk to him. And again, all this stuff is going to pay off with the main relationship in the movie. All of that economized to we have status quo in 4 minutes, I guess, is what I'm saying here. And now we're getting to what the action is going to put everything into play with Josh's kind of final humiliation as a kid that's going to motivate him to make the big wish of the movie here, where, again, Josh doesn't have it bad, but Josh, Josh doesn't have it bad, but he does have like a sticking point where, if he were a little older or a little taller, his life would be going even better for him. It's such a small first world problem, but it's the 80s, the same decade where we get Back to the Future where the kid gets everything he wants in the end. It's like commercialism for the win. Yeah. And it works because it's the 80s. Also, I love the hats, by the way. Again, let me mention this real quick because we don't see him in the rest of the movie. I love Josh's dad because Tiki, I swear, because again, I rarely see the beginning of this movie. I completely forgot that Josh had a father. I knew he had a mother because the mother has the big scene when Tom Hanks shows up, obviously. And Josh's dad, he seems like a really nice guy, even though he has like one scene and he's like off screen he's only really has 2 scenes, one of them which he's not even on screen. So I mean, yeah, it kind of does a lot there. Again, we show Josh he's got a decent enough life going for him there. Of course, we again Cynthia here being the representation of girls and kind of like the future that Josh might be denying himself of, just kind of falling in love with girls his own age. And again, I love this kind of the height thing here. We have we have all these great little subtle details, if not in the casting, then the writing here. We're like a much taller guy who can drive, who can do more adult things. It's kind of.
I love the driving thing is such a big sticking point.
That's the thing. Like, we don't know if this. We assume as Josh. Again, we as Josh assume that the girl's an item with this guy. But again, may not be the case. But his confidence is absolutely shot by this. And again, like this guy here, this prick here, this carnival, this carny guy here. Say, why don't you try the kiddie rides? Like, you're not helping, man. Now we have sad Josh walking to kick off the story here. These camera angles are great.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Dragon. Like, in under 10 minutes, we get all the setup we need. It's, the screenplay for this thing, it's a very solid, very, rigid 3-act structure that it takes us on in this whole opening. It's not even an opening act. It's almost like a prologue.
Yeah. Now, this is one of the great shots of cinema right here. Just that Zoltar machine at the end of this carnival row with all the games and everything set up. And just darkness around. It's like by the edge, by the water. You have like a sense of danger there. Like if you were a stupid kid, you ran off the edge of the thing, you might fall in the water, drown, or something bad might happen to you. And it's just all again, there's they're milking the magic out of very little, and that's the amazing thing about the Zoltar of this. We do the thing I keep praising Liar Liar for, where we have the magical kind of Deus Ex, not a Deus Ex Machina, but you have kind of the kind of the break in status quo through the magical convenience here, where Zoltar is going to magically turn from like a 13-year-old kid to a 30-year-old kid. And again, like all we have is like he's not plugged in, but yet the machine's on. We have some wind blowing. That's all we have. But again, we have these great inserts, like these really creepy red eyes and like the creaky mechanisms and everything. We're doing a
You know what it
lot.
reminds me of?
But
It kind of reminds me of how hyped up they made the DeLorean sequences in Back to the Future, even though those were pretty simplistic.
yeah, again, it's just coming off the truck, but it has all the dry ice. It sells it,
Hmm.
man.
Hmm.
Also, so Zoltar is an actual thing, just in case anybody doesn't know. So, because I mean, the first time I saw this movie, I didn't know Zoltar was a real thing or not. So Zoltar is like a real thing. You have all these sorts of different variations on it, though. You have different variations on the fortune telling machine. Some of them talk. The cheaper ones do not talk, as you see before us here. However, they did customize this one. This one has something I don't think, at least before this movie, did not have. The ramp, the little ramp where you operate where the coin lands. They did not have
Hmm.
those, so that was built for the movie, and it's a cool little device. And again, just learning about the making of Big, it's kind of ironic that they had that coin taped to the side to make those decisions, and a coin is what kicks off the whole movie. Putting the quarter in the Zoltar. But anyway, like I was saying with the liar liar element, like the liar liar element is like we never need to know the explanation of the magic. Just a wish is made, it comes true. We don't need to know any more beyond that. And it's kind of what we have here in the original form of it, I suppose. For the
Right.
astute film goer, the
That's what
bicycle.
made this era of filmmaking so pure. It's like nowadays we're so hung up on cinematic universes and continuity and plot holes and all that stuff, but we really didn't need any of that back in the 80s and 90s to really just make a damn compelling movie.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and you get bear in mind again with this movie, especially with the Tom Hanks of it, especially half my reason for checking it out was my experience with Tom Hanks in Toy Story. As a kid, I I do I do find a lot of like it's so ironic that Tom Hanks is in another movie about toys and everything, and where he works in in the industry of toys, and you have like a few like kind of odd things that kind of like call back to what he's going to be involved with years later. Where he's a kid sharing a room with his baby sister, kind of like Andy and Molly from Toy Story. It's kind of jumped out at me on a rewatch, like, oh, that's a little similar.
Right.
Coincidence purely, absolutely. I mean, unless there's like a Doc Brown time machine, we don't know. But yeah. All right, here we go. So again, before when Josh was down in the dumps, we shot him from below, looking up, which was making him big. There, but he wasn't because there were other people towering against him. Now we're seeing him as the towering giant figure because we're shooting him from basically the top down.
Yeah,
Use of scale.
simple cinematography almost turns into a special effect in some ways.
Again, this acting here because you can see that kid in the performance just kind of looking like, oh man, you got to rub the gunk in my ass to see like I'm just like I'm seeing like a weird version of myself right now. But no, oh my god, that is like, again, this is really laughing it off initially. We're building a great reveal and less reveal, more realization. We're playing realization really well in this movie at many points in it.
I
I
would
love
dare say that this is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
really okay.
Just the way it's staged, the way that all the comedy goes down, it really shoots off the premise. It does a great job of really really just like, okay, it sells the premise. It sells exactly what this movie's going to be. It sells where we're going to go with it. And I really do like the interaction with the mother. And it's just, and the whole, the voice, like trying to disguise the voice and everything. It's just, like I said, Dragon, it's just like, it just it shoots the basic premise out of the movie like a bottle rocket. It's like, all right, this is what it's going to be.
real quick, because I don't have a lot of these. I want to mention it too, because it just occurred to me. There's another kind of like another Toy Story Tom Hanks correlation here, where he calls off to Hannah in the first choice, like, "Oh, Hannah," just pretend to be the girl's mother, and then she hears him, runs out of the room. It's like the change in voice off screen. This kind of reminded me a little bit of this. But yeah, seriously, about we got to talk about Mrs. Baskin here. So yeah, I love Josh's mom. Feels like a very authentic New Jersey mom, which is essentially what she is here, and it just feels really, it's like she's tough, and like they have this with the voice change to make that relevant here. I love that. She thinks that Josh is sick, and he says, "No, I'm fine." And of course, as she walks down, she's the classic motherly thing, that hard nosed motherly thing. She says, "He's sick. He's got to be sick. I know he's sick." It's just like. And again, a lot of cute comedy here. Again, like Tom Hanks is a very improvisational actor, particularly with props. Even if those props are babies, and I just love the way he carries that that baby and just like whisk her off, and then just puts her in the little donut thing and just slides her across. Great, you're right too. There is excellent staging all throughout this. Love the little happy accent there, where like the shrubbery gets caught in the bicycle, makes you think he's gonna wreck or something. But just So I love the logic. There's a lot of great logic in this movie, and the logic here is okay. You're in this situation. Basically, it's all Bible. We don't have any of like Tiki. I think you said it best here, where we don't have the classic plot holes that we're so accustomed to these days. Like this movie's almost plot hole proof. I'm sure if there's anyone looking with a fine neutron microscope, they might find something. But let's be honest, this movie's real close to perfect in many ways. It really is. So. Honestly, you look at this. I mean, from a logic standpoint, I love that. If you're in the situation, you wake up. Okay, what's your first move? I'm going to go back to the Zoltar machine because that's what got me in this mess. I asked the Zoltar machine to make me big. I'm big. I don't want that. It's a little scary than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to find it again, and it's gone. Like plot 101, and it works.
It's almost kind of like the ultimate we don't care.
It is. It is. So this scene's always been eerie to me in a good way. It's always been eerie in a good way because again, this movie is such a great balance of comedy and drama, where we have the comedy of okay, Tom Hanks is not being recognized by his mother, and he's trying to explain. He seems like a crazy man, but again, there's kind of an edge in like the way she's playing this. Like they're playing two different movies. He's in a comedy, and she's in a home invasion movie.
Right.
And again, it's great yet a little funny at the same time. I mean, it's like horrifying yet a little funny at the same time. And that's the balance in the writing process. But what they did in the movie was they didn't force the obvious jokes, and they weren't afraid. Like if it gets serious, if the mood gets brought down a little, they weren't going to shy away from it. If it comes out naturally, that's the way it's going to come out. And again, I think time has shown it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one part of this movie that kind of gets a little dark is the kidnapping subplot, where the parents throughout the whole movie think that the son is being kidnapped and God knows what is happening to him. I mean, that's a pretty damn dark idea to kind of permeate its way through the entire narrative.
You know what? It's something that we couldn't get away with now unless we wanted to have like a big message attached to it. It's like not something you can have and just kind of let it reveal. Yeah, this is a bad situation. There's going to be as much fun as we're having in the movie. Remember, there is a consequence to this, and again, we have it in the DNA movie, and we show that in a horrifying way up front here with when Mrs. Baskin freaking out, and of course the phone call and everything. That where's my son? And this guy is claiming to be my son. He's nuts. So all of this. Again, there are consequences to our comedy, which is something so rare in things today.
Mm.
This is a great scene. And again, this scene on paper must sound insane or sound like this is never going to work. This will never work in a million years. But we have, you need Billy to be on Josh's side. And the only way we can get that to work is if he says something that only Billy will know, that only Billy will recognize, so he can basically pick up on the mannerisms and put two and two together. That is my buddy there. With this song that Tom Hanks sings, and this song is something that one of his sons, I don't think it's Colin Hanks, I think it's the other one. The Shimmy Shammy song, which was just something that his kid came up with and he just basically used for the movie.
Nice.
But I mean, yeah, in this scene, I love what Hanks is doing in this scene, where he's selling this unbelievable idea because he's like he sells it through this every man's desperation. Again, it's like the desperation of a kid in a bad situation, begging his friend for help, and again through the body of a full grown man, and it conveys. You see that scared little kid in the performance, like, "Come on, Billy, I need you. I'm very scared right now." So, real quick, because we don't see any of this here. In case anyone's wondering, the extended version of the movie is pretty much they put the deleted scenes into the movie, or if you saw the deleted scenes, pretty much that's what was in the extended version. And in my opinion, they were all cut for good reason. They were all like scenes we don't need, like nothing would have changed the movie. Like, you don't need to see the extended version of Big, but if you wanted to. Just so you know, like a few of the things that you would have had was like basically it would have been a little bit more drawn out. We would have seen Billy's home life for like a scene, and we saw his mother being kind of ranty, and it's basically like a whole bunch of like rants, like no one in this family helps me out. So it would have been just a little. So basically stuff we didn't need, because all the important stuff's what we see before us here of Billy and Josh kind of going laying low in New York, because you can't really hang out in New Jersey because there's probably gonna be like a police report of Josh Baskin, of this adult Josh Baskin going around the place. And two, again, if no one's going to believe him, so again, if the name Josh Baskin gets thrown around New Jersey, people are going to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with that quality in the writing here, I love that we see both the fantastic and kind of the scary from a kid's perspective. We have like crazy, again, this is 80s New York, folks. It's not exactly the pristine image we're used to today. It's not Big Apple, New York. This is like, you're going to see the wonder of Times Square, but then you're going to see crazy guys.
This isn't Home Alone 2, New York.
No, it's not there either. It's like the worst they have is like kind of ambiguously scary pigeon ladies. That's the worst they have.
Right.
But what you have here is like you have crazy guys walking down Times Square as you're marveling at it, saying "killer, killer, killer!" Yeah, it's going to be a little scary, even if you're not a kid. Or St. James Place, and this is what kills me about Tom Hanks in this movie on a rewatch. Look at his eyes. Look how he perceives the environment around him. Like he's looking at this guy like missing the teeth and everything. He's like, you can see his eyes, him eyeballing this guy, even though he's trying to. And essentially, the kid's puppeteering Josh here, where he's like, okay, here's what you're gonna say, and of course he says it because now he's not. Again, he's just using him as an adult puppet to get things done. Okay, we need a room, and only you can ask for the room. So here's what you say. I think we see in the friendship too. I think Billy's kind of the Linus. He's kind of the one with the grand platitudes and kind of the brains behind the outfit. And I guess Josh is somewhat of our Charlie Brown figure in over his head.
Yeah.
Seeking the guidance there. This is a rat hole.
This is actually one of the most emotionally effective scenes in the movie for me. The whole. Josh being left alone in the hotel room. He's hearing all the, all the sounds of the different things going on. And the whole situation is just really overwhelming him. He can't go to his parents for comfort. And, there's a lot of layers to this scene, Dragon. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Again, there's that dramatic heft I'm talking about right there. It's basically we have this, we have the look, like Tom Hanks, it's like, the vulnerability he communicates when he's just that scared kid who's propped up he's locked the door. He's just, after all this craziness he hears outside, the guys are knocking on his door. That's scary. And he's just like this helpless 12 to 13-year-old kid. I'll get into all that later. Is he 12? Is he 13? It's very not important, but we'll get into it later. The point is, he's this scared kid alone, just kind of on that bed, helpless. And just kind of crying himself to sleep. And it's heartbreaking. And again, on its face sounds absurd, but it's legitimized itself, therefore it all plays.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like the open window of New York, too, like you can't escape it, where you have that open window of bad stuff happening outside, gunshots everywhere, and then you have guys knocking on your door. It's all very beautiful. Can't escape it. There actually was another scene that was really, I'll give it this, there was a really good, one of the extended scenes was really good with this. It continued this, but you didn't really need it because this scene, it spoke for itself. There was going to be another scene where Josh had called his mother on the payphone out in this dingy apartment complex. He was calling his mother on the payphone, and he pretended to be a telemarketer to hear his mother's voice to comfort him in the scary night. That's what he
Oh,
had.
that's nice.
It's either that or in the morning or something. But the point is, that's what he had done. That was a great scene, and again, really, again, another sad scene. But again, this speaks volumes here. We're just trying to, he's just pushing that. That's the bit that kills me right here, where he props the. He does what every kid in the situation would. The only thing you can do is like just kind of prop something against the door and curl up in the fetal position.
Mm-hmm.
Quote Norma Bates. It's so sad.
God.
It
And
is.
this movie does have an edge to it. It's not just like dancing on a piano for 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's the perfect. I really hope I hope the malt uses that line. I really do because that's the perfect time. It's not dancing on a piano for 2 hours or an hour. It's not dancing on a piano for an hour and 40 minutes, folks. You're gonna be. It's a roller coaster of very, very remarkable emotions. So here we have the boys being proactive. Here we're okay. You got to find the Zoltar machine. The Zoltar machine again. It's like basically, what if we gave the let me rephrase that because we do kind of have that with the birthday cake and the constant wishing and liars, but to make that comparison, I now realize that was my folly. But looking at it here, they need the Zoltar machine because again, that's kind of our explanation for how he turns into, and that's all we need to know. It's just okay, we need that machine and we need to find it. It kind of raises the question of what happens to those? It kind of raises the question you never really think of when you're a kid going to a carnival. Like, what happens to those to the carnival games and the machines and stuff after that happens? And presumably, they kind of go on the road or they get put in storage somewhere, and that's kind of what they're tracking right now.
Oh.
You got to go to city information, and we just have this pitiful cut to, I'm going to be 30 years old for the rest of my life, which is just, it's such a great, funny cut. And I saw something really hilarious in recent years. I don't think it was for the 30th anniversary. I don't know, but Tom Hanks was on Stephen Colbert. And they did this hilarious thing where Colbert was dressed up as the Zoltar machine. It was the current age Tom Hanks, and he wanted to be 30 years old again.
Oh God!
Seriously, Tiki, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Anyone that hasn't seen it, check it out. It's really funny. It's silly, it's funny, but it's like 5 minutes of your life you won't regret. It's funny.
Well, so Dragon, I'm dying to know because you told me recently that you went to your first Fathom event and I forgot to ask. Was Scott Bantz the host?
I have a story to tell you. I can't tell you here, but I did see Scott Bantz. Yes.
Okay. All right.
More on that later. We'll just remind me of it. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, okay. So this is Tom Hanks. Again, Tom Hanks is, again, as I mentioned, he's great with props and improvisations, and that's like, again, if we're kind of doing a Hanksgiving here, we got to talk about kind of Hanks the actor and how he's grown years. Again, if this is really, I believe in Splash, he did the whole papaya thing, where it was like dancing with the fruits and everything, and that's he's just like at a fruit market or something, just kind of playing around with the props, and he's known to explore the scene like that. It's one of the things you love about the guy, especially young, early Tom Hanks. Here we have that with like the cherry and everything. He's grossing everybody out, and of course, it's all really good. Of course, now we have the famous job interview scene. So we kind of bridge things a little bit here. I do love the logic here of, again, stuff that we've set up before. Josh likes computers, so basically data entry is what he's getting into, a computer programmer, which I think the current contextualization would be data entry.
Yeah, that would be about right. Yeah,
pretty much. It's the fancier name for it, essentially. Mm-hmm. A lot easier back then. At least, well, of course, it was a lot easier back then, especially the way we see how Josh handles it. More on that way. Of course, again, this is these two guys having fun here. Just again, they do. Tom Hanks does have really good chemistry with this.
I love how dapper looking Tom Hanks looks in that like light blue suit and the blue tie.
Yeah, he's kind of dressed like Frank Costanza, but it looks good. Like, what if you could sell it? Look, and this always kills me, but I don't it's for no good reason. It just kind of kills me. As Josh enters the room to this job interview, Billy's like giving him the advice of make sure you look him in the eye. So he's looking him in this scene. He's looking at him in the eye, very kind of unsure of himself. And it's always baffled me. The guy's doing this pen clicking thing, which I don't know if it was a random direction or what, but I love it. It's just like something a little off about the guy. But it's just kind of clicking the pen, and Hank's just kind of looking back and forth, like, okay, I'm making eye contact. And this is, again, if you really boil down the movie, it's a lot of this, but it doesn't get old because there's a charm to it, where the whole movie is essentially it's a double entendre of like, okay, he's going to say, all the stuff he's saying is being perceived as adult things. Like, I went to George Washington. Oh yes, GW University. Yes, yes. So yeah, he's it's just it's misconstruing everything. But again, it's like almost like the first time you heard the joke in a way. It just kind of has that sort of like a novelty to it, of some sort. Whereas I like here, I kind of noticed this years later. Josh is actually again being interested in girls as we saw earlier on. He's at that early age. He's kind of checking her out in the scene. I kind of missed that years ago. I was like, yeah, he's kind of checking her out when she enters the office. How frazzled that guy is, by the way. Just like he's like, oh, okay, she's kind of had me all screwed up here. When can you start? I think that's what got him the job at the end of the day, really.
Just the desperation of needing the position.
I think that's the most part of it. I just think it's like, okay, you know what, guy, you sold me enough. We don't have to do anything further. Just, you want the job, I'll give it. So
There's an alternate take where Tom Hanks just is like, you know what? You're too easy on me. I don't want to work for someone on the spot. I'm out.
Oh, good. It's a Better Call Saul reference for any people just scratching their heads. I tell you, Tiki, I really wish that entry was as simple as it used to be back then.
I worked data entry for a summer. I thought it was pretty easy, but I like monotonous work.
Is it? Well, let me ask you this: is it pretty much like this when you did it?
Yeah. I mean, except with fancier computers, obviously.
Okay, maybe it's not as different as I perceive it to be, but okay. Anyway, so we have John Lovitz here. Who, by the way, a little ipso facto, in case anyone's wondering, John Lovitz, you can be really good on the screen, but I tell you, in real life, you don't know what you're going to get with John Lovitz. I'm not speaking from personal experience. I'm speaking from, I heard Kevin Smith has had some negative runs with John Lovitz.
Really, Kevin Smith?
Oh yeah, big one. Yeah, you got into like a legal dispute with him. Whole thing. But yeah, I mean, the point is, Lovitz, he's kind of Hollywood and both good, and mostly it seems like John Lovitz might be Hollywood in a lot of bad ways. But
oh man.
Anyway, again, they had some fun setup here that, again, years later, I completely forgot paid off. Like this girl that we see, like, say hi to her and she's yours. She'll wrap her legs around you so tight you can hardly breathe. All right, I'll stay away from her then. One, that joke still never gets old for me. Just the reaction that he gets from Lovitz. They're like, okay. But that gag pays off later at the party scene. We'll get to it. It's a really clever little payoff. So here we go, the incomparable Robert Loggia, not in Psycho 2, but I wonder if this was. I think this was after Psycho 2 for him. Anyway, okay, so this let's see, there's a lot of things to process here. Okay, so one, there's a callback to like the conversation he and Billy were having earlier in the movie about seeing on a girl's shirt and basically getting a glimpse at bra, which is kind of like a coveting of women in the movie here, where he kind of peeks at the lingerie that Susan's wearing. And again, kind of our main three characters he kind of literally runs into, and that's how we introduce these three characters really to him.
Right.
Bumps into him, and Robert Loggia, I think he's an unsung. I'm sure he's sung enough, but I mean, to me, he always felt kind of like an unsung here because he's kind of immortalized through that piano scene. But beyond that, it's like I think we all just kind of go to Hanks. But Loggia has a lot of other really great scenes in this movie. I mean, everyone will jump to when we get to the piano scene. But I love the lead piano scene a lot. So this is a really good scene. This one definitely holds up here. So Josh, we have a kind of a clever and classic scene here where he's calling his mother again. He wants to bring his mother some comfort. Of course, he can't explain the situation because when he tried that, he was threatened with a knife by said mother. Unless this is Bates Motel, that's not going to happen. So what Josh is doing here is he's kind of one. I love it, the little kid thing where his mother basically gives the taken threat to the kidnapper of like, if you harm a hair of my son, then I'm going to make sure you suffer till the end of times. He says, "Oh wow, thanks." Because he's kind of touched, but he's just not really realizing. Oh wait, the kidnapper would not. And I always love that you can, looking at this from the outside, like what the coworkers must think of this, where he sings. where he sings the little memory song, memories, da 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 da, when he's singing that. I think they're probably thinking like he's like singing to like he's divorced or something, talking on the phone, like singing to like he's a deadbeat dad or something. I don't know. I think he's
God.
that's the only lot. That's the only thing I. What else are you meant to think if like there's a guy singing on the phone next to you, sound like he's talking to somebody who's like a family member or something? I don't know.
But you mentioned that the mother was in a thriller. Now she's in like a hardcore drama.
Yeah. Look at Lovett. They're looking at him. It's like, okay, this guy's got problems at home. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of a clever way of okay, how can Josh like again? I don't know. It just feels like one of those classic moments of cinema where okay, I can't put you on the phone with him, but ask me something, so I'll ask him, and he'll tell me that you'll know. It's like again, it sounds a little convoluted, but really, again, it jives really well. Good old French connection, Gene Hackman, Hackman for life, very nice. Okay, I got a ridiculous story for you here. So ever since I saw Big years ago, I've always now I don't need it the same way here. But let me rephrase. Yeah, I've always been experimental with the Oreo, the way you eat an Oreo, but based on Josh Baskin here. Like, you know what? Just let's get creative how we eat yours. Sometimes you eat the whole thing, and sometimes you eat like you scrape up the cream. Sometimes you just go for you lick the thing and you toss away the cookie. I don't know. It's like
You know what, Dragon? I'm an Oreo milkshake kind of guy.
see, I respect that, but I'm never brave enough to try. It's just what.
I'm not a fan of the cookies, but if you crumble up the cookies and put them like on top of ice cream or in a milkshake or something like that, I'm all about it.
Does look very tempting. All right, so Oreo conversation aside.
I remember you could probably still find this on the channel somewhere. I once did a very drunken vlog where I drank an Oreo milkshake on camera from Burger King.
Wow.
Tiki tries an Oreo milkshake or something like that. Oh, jeez.
That sounds oddly familiar.
Yep.
So that poor teller, by the way, I always love the whole you go to the bank teller and you say, "Teller, what do you want?" And just they ask for like the most the most pedantic way of getting the most annoying way of asking for your paycheck cash to you, which is like all these dimes and nickels and $100 bill and the rest in ones. That's the that poor bank teller. God bless her though. So again, this is a lot of Penny Marshall really let him improvise with basically any scene you see Tom Hanks with a toy, it's all improvised, and it's kind of funny. And again, this one's a legitimate Toy Story connect here. So they discovered this when they were making Toy Story because what they did is they would give Tom Hanks props in the first two Toy Story movies. They gave him a prop. They gave him like a fake arm that you'd hang out of a trunk around Halloween. So when Buzz loses the arm in Toy Story, it's Tom Hanks riffing about a severed arm. Oh yes, Buzz, yeah, Buzz Lightyear handshake, yeah, and of course in Toy Story 2, they show him all the Woody memorabilia, and they show him images and like some mock-ups of props, and he's working off that and reacting to it live, and that's kind of what he's running with. So again, Tom Hanks loves props. I mean, you see him with the silly string or kind of the cheap toys before he gets to the high quality toys. Like he's having fun.
Yeah, this montage must have been a blast to shoot.
All right, so this is an FAO short. So now we're in FAO shorts, and this is what it looks like. And this essentially, I don't know if it's going to look precisely like this, but this is what has come back today, from what I understand. Which is cool. It's kind of like almost like being declared national landmark in a way, coming back. It's like one of those things. Like we brought it back for preservation purposes. There's a whole lot of fun stuff here. And again, I just love seeing kind of Tom Hanks committing to the role here, and like a little twitching thing. Which again, years later, Private Ryan, he might act, years later.
God, right?
Okay, so this is the thing I really want to talk about here. So what again? One of my favorite scenes in this, not the favorite. We'll get to the favorite later on. But I love the conversation with Robert Loggia leading to the piano. Piano is great, but this whole meeting between these two. Like, thematically, the idea is that Josh, with the three characters that he met at McMullen Toys, his influence rubs off on them in a way and kind of inspires an arc within them. With McMillan here, he basically kind of brings back kind of the youthful simplicity of being in the toy business. That's kind of what he does here. Again, this is a guy just kind of talking things through. He's not about statistics. He's not about all of these really inconsequential things because he's walking the floor and seeing the products, and Josh is the guy playing with the products. Therefore, he would have an insight. So he's just kind of bringing him back to his youth and kind of helping him recapture that, which is kind of um, again, which is kind of what the is kind of the opposite of what Josh made his wish about, which is kind of a fun little kind of reversal of them. But again, they're so closely bonded together. And just there's such kind of a class and sincerity about this dynamic between the two of them. Like this to me is what at least to me is my favorite dynamic in the movie. These two guys, it's always really nice and almost grandfatherly in a way. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it's great for sure.
So the origin behind the big
Besides the
piano,
mother, it's the emotional anchor of the movie in a way.
yeah, that's the thing because he doesn't really have like that kind of that adult figure in his life. McMullen's kind of the closest thing he
Hmm.
has, really. So let's see. So again, the origin behind the big famous piano scene is in FAO Schwartz. There was a piano exactly like this. However, it was 6 feet long, so they had to customize it to make it basically do like a whole choreographed dance scene. It went from 6 feet to 16 feet, and they had like changed the key so it would be able to play Heart and Soul like it is now. And they had like this cardboard mock up and everything. And the amazing thing, I mean, as you can probably again, as you can plainly see before you, but if there's any doubt, this is all Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks doing this. Like no stunt doubles, no inserts where like it's a double or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, right.
That's all them. That's all well rehearsed. They worked their butts off to get this in. I gotta tell you again, this is like every time I go to the movies, my local theater, they have this big kind of tableau, like this little big collage of famous movie moments, and this is on there with them. You know, the big piano, it's there along like Raiders and like Star
Mhm.
Wars and like, all the Christmas story. It's all there. I think this one might, if not the most prominent, it's definitely on there. And the really cool thing, story wise, I think the writers pointed this out, and I have to agree with them, is that this serves as like the kind of the perfect introduction between the perfect proper introduction between these two characters without a word being spoken, like them dancing together, having a good time. And again, you see plainly recapturing his youth, hanging out with this guy.
Well, it's interesting because this movie is a little bit like Back to the Future in a way because it's all about generation gaps.
Yeah,
Like that's a big theme in the movie, like Tom Hanks ages up a generation, he meets a grandfatherly figure, he's roughly the same age as his parents. It's very trippy when you kind of get down to the minutia of it all.
yeah. And a little fun fact: Robert Loggia, there was actually so he's based on the CEO of FAO Schwartz. He was like a really kindly, nice guy, and that's kind of what he was using as a frame of reference for playing Macmillan here. And again, Macmillan's a real company, so they kind of spliced a lot of the toy companies and a lot of the department stores together here. But they are all real though, from what I understand. I don't know why. So we have John Hurt here. Unfortunately, he's passed away in recent years, but he's a good actor. Many people, of course, know him for Dad in Home Alone. And he's I always love the line, "Bob's always bigger in my office." So he's just so
Kind of
petty.
like a classic, like sleazy '80s rival.
That's the thing, and the cool thing about it, though, Tiki, is that the thing that sets him apart from every other '80s rival. He's in the same class, but what's kind of cool about him is that, again, if Josh is affecting everybody else and kind of like he's kind of giving them a sense of youth or a sense of youthful energy or kind of reminding what it's like to be a kid. What he does with Paul there, Paul being the John Hurt character, he uh, he basically makes him into like a playground bully of rivals. He kind of makes him into he makes him the most immature of them all, which is just so funny. He's again the evil version of Josh. He's not evil, but he's just kind of just really pedantic and just like, well, I don't like your face. Just kind of one of those guys.
Like if they ever did a remake of this movie, I could see a big plot twist with him being like, "Oh, gasp! He was also affected by the Zoltar machine, but he's been affected longer."
Oh God, yeah, you're right. So let's talk about Susan over here. So Elizabeth Perkins, I think she's wonderful in this movie. Because, again, her arc is probably one of the best arcs in the entire film here. Where again, if all of them have the same kind of overall umbrella thing. Again, Josh bring kind of a youthfulness back into their life. She transforms from where you see her at the beginning of the movie, hair pulled back and everything, and she's all very serious. She had like this extended introduction where she was like being being the hard nosed kind of basically being like a real Charlotte Pickles at work. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying very much just kind of like she was really all business, like all cell phone business before the cell phone was really big at this point.
Now, if you said Dee Dee Pickles, that'd be a different story.
Of course, that'd be a different story. Okay, now I'm going to take a break from talking about Susan here because I want to talk. This is my favorite scene in the whole movie. Right here. I love this scene. So if I have to pick one scene from Big, it's this scene before the piano. Piano's great. It's my favorite. I think this deep down, I guess subconsciously, it's always made me fall in love with the idea of the pitch. I love a good pitch. I love being able to pitch ideas. Love how I guess this is my introduction to what a pitch really was. And I love it. The concept of this scene is just great. That selling the most ridiculous transformer of all, a building that turns into a robot. And we have just the great line that says it all is, what's fun about playing with a building? Just the whole, I don't get it. What's fun about playing with a building? And it's a very direct, very valid question. And I love that all of this kind of creativity comes from that very logical question that none of these stuffed shirts would it's again, they're living in the American psycho world of like, no, we can't, we're all worried about our card stock and our statistics and everything in the business world that keeps things running. They're the Howard Hamlin generation. We just want to keep things running. We don't want to ask these trivial questions.
Mm-hmm.
But Josh is, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I think basically, let's say the buildings for the architecture buffs. I mean, Scott Snyder and myself might be able to find some, or Kevin Walktell. Kevin Walktell might love the building the robot turns into a building. But it's not going to be for everybody. At the very least, not. Here's the thing. The idea of a building turns into a robot could be cool, but here's the thing: this design is so ridiculous and so impractical. As we see him playing around with it, just so stupidly designed. It's so bad, it's good in a way. It's so I would love to have that building because it just looks so impractical and so iconic.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just he's basically kind of coming up with this whole the whole like bug that turns into a robot, and we get that great line, bugs. No one just says bugs in a meeting. It's just so simple, but so funny. I heard, coincidentally, because I've always been curious about this, so I heard that 3 years before Big came out, there was like an insectoids line. I don't exactly know what that toy line was comprised of. I'm assuming it was a very similar idea to this. So I don't know if they were. I really think it was a coincidence, but I don't know if they were just pulling from real life the whole insectoids line, the whole bug that turns into a robot. But the energy in the scene is so up, and it sounds like Tiki. Again, I think that was the charm of the scene for me, is that it's such a natural conversation. It feels like these are people really coming up with this on the spot. Like they're really coming up with this idea, and they're really just riffing in the room, which is just like such a great example of the creative process. And I always love that.
Yeah.
If you get a totem for the making of this movie, it would be that scene. Just people kind of having a good time talking about things. Get the inner toy designer of a toy company when they're all worried about like what's going to sell better next year. Heard rumors that Bionicles was the actual realization of the big toy. It's a rumor though, so I can't
God.
I always heard that Bionicles may have been directly inspired by Big, like that was them trying to make, basically make the Big toy line. You imagine at some point someone would do a literal adaptation of this toy that Big was referring to. But yeah.
Dragon Bionicle is the Lego spin-off movie that I actually want. Not this this Ninjago crap. I really want a Bionicle movie.
Right. So with all that too, just with the grand sell of the movie, again from the premise, I believe the writers said this too, it's basically a satire of innocence amongst corporate politics. It's like in the corporate world you have this innocence that kind of changes the corporate world for the better, but no one ever thought of these very simplistic questions because they're all caught up in their own little worlds. Just all wonderful stuff there. And this apartment rocks, by the way. I always love how spacious this apartment is.
Yeah, this is really the whole movie kind of turns into like a wish fulfillment type scenario at this point.
It is, because I think what they're doing, Tiki, and years later, I think I've now put this together that the movie I was wondering rewatching me, why on earth did they just start with the computer game? Like I know he's going to be big into computers, but is there really a reason for it? And the reason for it is that choice. So we have to see both sides of that choice. We see the family he's left behind. And what we're doing here throughout for this section of the movie, for a long portion of it, is we're forgetting about the family. Like this, what we're doing right now in this montage is the last time we really hear about the family for a long while. That he's, it's like he's writing to them. Basically, the logic of what he's doing here is, I'm going to write a letter as Josh because I can't show my face or call again because of the whole kidnapping, because they might be able to trace the call. And I'm not saying he's thinking about all this. I'm saying that's most likely the logic of, okay, we can't just have him call, otherwise people would get wise to it. So he's going to write postcards saying that he's all right to kind of, again, try to dissuade the family's panic and worry over what's happening with him as much as he can. For like the 6 weeks he imagines he's going to be there, which of course the idea is that it goes beyond 6 weeks, but it's, a while.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really stood out to me about the movie as it kind of goes forward into the second act and beyond is we really do get a great transition from Josh. He goes from, and that kind of leads to one of my favorite scenes, which we'll get to a little bit later, between him and Billy, where he does kind of, he goes from like the 13-year-old in the little, in the adult's body to, legitimately kind of like a, an adult in his own right, sort of living an adult life with adult problems. And it's a very natural, very gradual transition. The movie takes its time to get there.
Yeah. So here we have the big company function. It's like not a Christmas party, but like kind of like an annual party, I guess. And I loved, again, just Robert Loggia here, just being the whole, Susan, have a drink. Actually, have a couple drinks. Just like telling her it's a party, relax. All right, don't work. Don't try to sell me here, man. Just like, he's being nice about it. He's being nice and clever about it. Like, okay, come on, Susan, you don't need to impress me. Here we have Josh in his kind of his all white tuxedo, which looks great. And I love that throughout the movie, in every scene, and the way every scene's shot. The most on the nose here, in a good way, I guess, is that Josh sticks out in some way, shape, or form amongst everybody else in the company. And until he kind of conforms with the rest of them later on, when he's wearing like the double-breasted suit and everything, he's sticking out in every scene up to that point. This is, again, one of the best examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's another extended scene that actually explains what the deal with the tuxedo is. It's not really of merit except for one detail. Is that, and you don't need it because, again, it's fine the way it plays here. Is that Josh essentially got a prom tuxedo. He was tuxedo shopping with Billy, and they kind of gravitated towards the prom tuxedos of multicolors. Oh, here's the hi callback, by the way. So again, this girl, it's the same girl from earlier. She says hi to him, and he just looks away. Okay, he just walks away with not a word to her. So, okay, I'm not gonna say hi. I completely missed that for years, Tiki. It's like, oh my god, it's so funny. So here's a lot of like Tom Hanks is no. Here's the thing. If I ever rewatch it, every time I rewatch Tom Hanks, I'm going to be on the lookout for food improvisation here because, again, it just does so much of it here. He's improvising with the baby corn and the pate and everything, just messing around with it, seeing what he can do here.
Mm-hmm.
So I meant to mention this earlier with Susan. So again, it's going to be important for her going forward here. So I guess we should talk about that. So Susan's with Paul because I believe the implied idea is that she's kind of sleeping around with like whoever the top dog of the company is. Just kind of, it's like either she's attracted to the power or she's just trying to work her way up the ladder. One of the two. The point is she's kind of maybe not easy, but not like a committed relationship type. And again, like she's very. The point is, we have a character who, again, is Josh's complete opposite at the start in a way where she's very adult, very career, very much. She's always about growing up, and the implied idea is like she never had a childhood. She was always racing to the finish just to get through life, to get to this whole executive position, like a girl just trying to make her way up the corporate ladder. And of course, Josh is going to change that majorly for her here. And right now, Josh is the top dog, which implies that's why she's kind of making her move here. And kind of Josh, and Josh initially being almost, again, he's a static character for a large majority of the movie, and up until this point, again, being a static character, he's just kind of inspires this change in everybody. And basically, this ultimate date night is about to occur, which is going to start her down her path of growth. Of course, for anyone who does not know, Caviar you don't want to go in blind to having caviar. If you learn anything about pate and caviar, you don't go into it blindly. Otherwise, this might happen to you. Even in Daredevil, remember in Daredevil season 2, like Foggy's trying caviar, doesn't like it. Like, what is it? It's expensive. I like it. That's the thing. Caviar apparently is it's literally you only eat it for a show of status or like you know what it's food and it means it's rich, so just chow down. Of course, Josh kind of the smooth operator, but he doesn't know it here. Like just kind of swoops in, kind of swings by, eats a few ears of baby corn. He's out of there with the girl on his arms.
Yep.
Of course, Josh being starstruck by the company car here, very nice. Yeah, a lot of the comedy in the movie with Hanks is playing with is kind of like first time experience here. Oh my god, I've never been in a limo before. Let me play. Again, I love that. Again, I think we kind of hit it with the mother earlier on. Is that so many scenes in this movie are people playing two different scenes. Josh is basically in like a teen comedy, where everyone else is in a different scene here, where she's in kind of like this Lifetime soap of the week movie here, where it's like I'm feeling very vulnerable right now. I'm a career woman, she's like just doing all this, and just Josh is like it gets like if there was a split screen down the middle, it would be here. It's really funny here, just like not looking at her at all. It's just it's really great comedy.
Once again, like just Tom Hanks with just going off the ropes with the prop work.
Yep.
Kind of like just kind of going for whatever's in the car, playing with the radio, playing with the phone.
I think Tommy Lee Jones once said something to the effect of a prop is an actor's best friend. Kind of wise advice. Ejector seat. Don't try this at home, kids, all right? If you're a sunroof, wait till you park to do something like this. Don't do it while you're in motion, all right? Just very, very dangerous. And you guys get a little warning shot of this here, okay? So again, you also, aside from just things really high in the sky, like overpasses or something, you also got to look, or signs, especially if you're in like New York. If you're in LA, you're dead. If you're in New York, you got a shot. If you're in LA, you got one of those low-hanging signs, so you're going to be dead or missing a head at least, one of the things. So this is, again, the earnestness in there's a lot of great kind of charming earnestness throughout this movie here, and we subvert the obvious a lot. We don't do the obvious gags, and that's something I think that's one of the big things that helps this movie stand out amongst a lot of the other movies you'd have, like body switching or like kind of like. Here's like a Freaky Friday situation or something, like someone in a different body that they're not used to. Like, okay, we've seen all this before. Like, oh man, what's going on here? Wow, like we don't do any like he's not doing like a Macaulay Culkin like slapping his face, like, oh man, this is what shaving's like. You don't do any of those gags.
Yeah, it's less to do with kind of the gimmick of the premise and more to do with the emotional impact that the premise has and how that impact goes on to shape all the characters around him, as we keep saying.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of it is it starts off funny and then it develops a great kind of sweetness to it. It's like a really natural sweetness kind of comes from this place of, again, it is hilarious in those places. And again, those moments of hilarity develop a sweetness. And when things get dramatic, you invest yourself even more so into things.
Mm-hmm.
Of Josh with the suspenders look, Tiki. The suspenders look, it's a good look. This is a fun fact here, completely coincidental. So Barry Sonnenfeld was the DP on this movie, the director of photography. And he, and of course, one of the songs in this scene, like the main song in the scene is Men in Black. So years later, Barry Sonnenfeld directed Men in Black.
Full circle.
Yep, full circle. I always kind of noticed, I swear to you, I'm noticing it just right now. There's a giant light bulb in the scene. No idea. Josh just had like a giant.
I can see it.
That's his. Even with the lamp, Tiki, there's like, we can't just do a normal lamp. We just got to do something kind of more fun and whimsical and kid-like. Just make it a giant light bulb. He's an idea man at a toy company. It'll be thematic, but it works. Here we go, the trampoline here. So again, I love Elizabeth Perkins, what she's doing here. Again, she has an idea where this night's going, and she's like, oh man, this guy's a real swinger or something. That's kind of what she's thinking throughout the scene. And again, just kind of subverting all of that. But again, what he's doing here is, again, melting through the layers of corporate, again, the corporate woman with her hair pulled back, getting her like to jump on a trampoline, dress flying everywhere, and just like having a good time with no kind of, like cynical undertones or anything, or no like 80s sex comedy vibe about this at all. It's just really nice.
Yeah, you're right. It's all very wholesome. I like that she goes in with one set of expectations for how it's going to go down, and she doesn't get that at all. But what she gets is something a lot more endearing.
Yeah, and I also, just so you know, the shot they're about to get when they're both like kind of jumping and having a good time with the trampoline from the outside, that is what you see right there. It's like that's Penny Marshall outside, and they're in a building right now. It's not another set. Like they're in like an actual building that they're shooting on location with here. So they have to wait outside to get the shot. And you gotta imagine Tom Hanks and Elizabeth Perkins are jumping like madmen throughout the night to get that shot on the outside to get it just right and get them both in like one part of the window. It's like when you see, again, it's like an exterior goes by like that, but it's just to get it just right. And I gotta tell you, I don't know why I never put this together, but he's in all white, she's in all black, and kind of a yin yang sort of. It looks good.
Yeah.
And this is gonna sound really corny, but again, it's a wholesome movie, so I guess some of that's kind of bred in there. But you know what? I just think it's so. Again, it makes sense given Josh, 13-year-old kid would make sense. But I just love it's such a charming notion of like sleeping in the bunk beds. It's like. You meet a girl on the first day, just you sleep in bunk beds. Like that's something kind of cutesy and chivalrous about that. I don't know. I kind of like it. It's like what? It'd be impractical, but imagine if we had more of that. Bunk beds, like the symbol of innocence. Just meeting a woman and then let's go to a bunk bed with her.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a good, kind of first step.
Yeah.
Like wheels in a way.
Exactly. Guys, love that all of this came from the idea of like, so you want to sleep over? All right, yeah, it's okay, but I get to be on top. Just again, it's a great double entendre gag, but again, it doesn't feel like old hat probably because it was the first hat, maybe. Might be purely because it's one of the first times we hear something like that, or just because it works, lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Got some Thundercat sheets, by the way. A little. So again, see visually, let her hair down. She's on the way. Like again, her mind's been changed on this guy. She sees he's not like a corporate killer like Paul is feared, and she's slowly but surely kind of acting more kid-like here. She's trying to enact what Josh did the previous night. She's playing with the radio and fidgeting, and Elizabeth Perkins gives this adorable, cutesy smile. It just kills me. Like when he tells me, do you have to play with everything? He just gives this adorable, almost Farmiga. It's like the one Farmiga-esque thing she does in the movie. It's the Farmiga thing that she does in the movie. If she gets one, that's it right there. And again, if she's getting to that place, Paul has to too. Not in the happy-go-lucky school. Like she's happy as a schoolgirl. He's as petty as a schoolboy. Oh, I love the little miniature train set that Josh had in the scene. He was just kind of playing with everything. That's a good little model there.
I feel like in another lifetime, David Spade would be playing the Paul character for some reason.
A part of me could buy it.
Kind of like just the swarmy office go-getter, kind of like the opportunity man.
I gotta tell you, who I buy him as more? I buy him more as Lovitz. I think he'd be perfect for that Lovitz role of just kind of like the guy.
Well, Lovitz is already in this movie, so that doesn't count.
I'm all right, fine.
I don't know. Maybe get Lovitz in this role and then have David Spade play Lovitz's role.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, T. I think I might screw that up. I meant David Spade as Lovitz. That's what I meant.
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
I think
Okay,
said,
I see what you're saying.
I just said Lovitz twice, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
And do I feel stupid? Yes, I meant. You think you got it right? I meant David Spade.
It's fine.
That's all. Zoltar, where are you? I need to change history. Sell it for Colbert. Anyway. And again, this is just—it's so ridiculous, and again, it works. It's just this like game of keep away between grown men acting like complete children. One a bad guy, the other one not so. The other one he's just playing by his rules, and he's getting mad at him for it. God, this is so. I love the crowd that's forming too. The crowd that's forming. They're all like looking at, like, what the heck is going on over there? It's like, I think it's very intentional, Tiki, that we don't see Josh get hit. We see the aftermath, but we the audience don't want to see Josh get hit. We don't want to see anything bad happen to Josh. Whether that's because Tom Hanks is going to win everybody over, or just you don't want to see your main character get hit.
And the fact that it is technically a child.
Maybe I think you nailed it on that. I think you're 2 for 2. You got it right there. Yeah, I think it's the better reason. Yes. And look, I don't want to get all Freudian or anything here, but I do think there's somewhat of maternal quality to Susan here, and I don't know, maybe that's again like Josh is kind of lacking that in his life.
You know what, Dragon? I'm glad you're bringing this up because that's honestly one of the things I've been kind of hesitant to mention that, but. Look, I like Susan a lot. She's a fine character, but the maternal quality is one of the things that it doesn't sit well with me in terms of the movie.
To be fair, I think it's only really for this scene with the maternal thing. I mean, basically it's here, and then when she corrects herself, then it's back to being maternal, as that relationship would go. So I think this is the only scene where it really could be called into question. So I'll give you that. But it doesn't bug me because it works out the right way at the very end. Like, she doesn't make the irresponsible choice, she doesn't give him another quarter. At the end of the day, folks, she doesn't give him another quarter to make the wish. As is all nice here. Yeah, it's a little what Hanks is doing with just a happy-go-lucky smile, And now we're just looking at like, hey, look, Hanks is happy. Give him a point. It's not one of those things. It's just, it's like, yeah, she kissed him and he's happy. And she's like, well, why is he still hung up on this? And it was a nice little moment. Now it's past.
Am I crazy, or does this guy kind of look like evil Michael J. Fox?
I kind of see it. I wouldn't say it, but I could see
what the hell am I going on about with this guy? He reminds me of everyone but the actual actor who's playing him. It's like he's David. He's a little Michael J. Fox. I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm really scattered on my impressions of this guy for some reason.
But remember, Dad from Home Alone.
Yeah, I know that.
You know what's really? What's funny? I saw him on one of those shows that only lasted for one season. I believe it's called APB. I liked the show. It was basically cops. So it was a very gadget heavy show, so you can imagine that I liked it. But the point is, it was basically giving the cops like really high tech, kind of next level, next gen technology to use in law enforcement. The point is, they had like a Tony Stark guy running a police station. That was the idea. And that Tony Stark kind of esque character had a father who was played by John Hurt, who was a con artist, who basically, again, like the guy who's like dedicated now to fighting crime or helping people fight crime with technology, has this scam artist of a father who's played by John Hurt. So it kind of mixed his infamous roles from Big and from Home Alone. He's the father character from Home Alone. He's that corporate cutthroat guy like he is in Big. It's kind of a mixture somewhere along the lines. It's kind of funny. This is nice. I like those. I don't go to these restaurants, but I do respect the heck out of them. The ones that make a show out of everything. The ones that Like basically the pizza place they're at, the I guess the Italian place where they're at right now. Like you throw the dough in the guy's mouth and he juggles the dough and he tosses the pizza, and it's like one of those like sushi places where they chop it at the table. It's kind of neat.
I've got reservations to one of those places at Epcot, Dragon. I'm very excited. It's called the Kabuki place.
Nice. So the rift is beginning to form here, and the girl has gotten in the middle of the two friends. Not in the conventional way, because that'd be weird, but it's the girl has gotten between the two friends. Again, this kills me here.
Yeah, like I said, this is where the movie really starts to get that dynamic of like, he's turning into a full-fledged adult in his own right. He's got issues, he's got worries, but he's also got excitement and hope. And we see just kind of like the well-rounded three-dimensional quality that being an adult entails.
So I got a fan theory here, and it's like my little headcanon, doesn't have to be true, but I just wondered what your take on this is. He made a birthday wish at the restaurant a few moments ago, and Billy kind of teased him like, "Oh boy, I wonder what your next wish is going to be." I think his next wish was to kind of undo his humiliation at the carnival. Basically, take the girl, basically undo that, or like be able to ride the ride. Which I don't know. It was either just undo the whole night and basically succeed with all the failures of that night, or like get the girl, or just ride her. One of those things. I think he basically had a wish in some shape or form that was this date. I don't know. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I can see that.
It all does. Basically, I guess it working out well, but either or. It was liar, liar, then it'd be a certainty, but it's not. So. But I do like it though. I like how again going full circle here, how he is undoing that humiliation that kind of got the movie going on here. And there's a visual in this scene that I completely forgot about that on a rewatch like blew my mind how clever and brilliant it was. Where Josh and Susan they walk away at a certain point. I believe they're walking to the big the Glenn Miller Orchestra number. And they're walking away to dance. Again, kind of a symbol of him leaving childhood behind in a way. You're going to see the Zoltar machine that he's been looking for in the scene that he just doesn't he doesn't notice or he notices and doesn't. Again, it's unclear. I don't think he sees it. I think he just doesn't. I think he just doesn't notice it. Otherwise, there'd be
once again, the Zoltar machine to me, like, again, it has a very similar effect to the DeLorean from Back to the Future, at least in the first Back to the Future, where there's literally no special effect behind it, but the way that it's shot and the way that it fits into the movie, just seeing it, just seeing the physical, like, oh, there it is, it almost feels like a special effect. It holds such weight to it.
That's the thing, like visually he's leaving Zoltar behind. Now again, whether intentional or not, he's still leaving it behind. And I agree with everything you said, by the way. He's leaving it behind. And it's visually encapsulated in one shot that he's leaving his goal of like, I'm gonna get back to being a kid again using the Zoltar machine once I find it. His priorities have diverged. It's all, and again he's walked away from that to the expression of love and manhood that that if you want to look in the big psychology of it all here, as the 13-year-old boy, which again, that birthday either made him 13 or he was 12 going on 13 or vice versa. And there's a specific reason for that, but we'll get into that momentarily. The point is, like, he was a guy who's like, again, expressing that kind of that interest and kind of that puberty, that growth, if you will. And now he's kind of experiencing that as an adult, which comes off to her as very charming, which again, in itself it is, I guess. And again, it's all very interesting. It's kind of nicely layered, I guess. And I love the music here. I love the Glenn Miller, Moonlight Serenade. That's what this song is called. Really nice scene. I love how we have this great kind of old movie, almost like forget all the Back to the Future comparisons here, folks. It's kind of like the Back to the Future kiss in a way for by Big's equivalent.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, okay, I have a weird story for you about the making of this movie. So, the writers, and again, this is in the 80s, mind you. You could do this before life happens, before we see it. Now have all these reservations. But in the 80s, for all of this stuff about kind of Josh getting into a relationship with Susan here, all of this stuff, again, him being the teenage kid getting into a relationship with an older woman, the writers took a number of teens to a bowling alley and asked them questions about basically asked them questions that would indicate like sexually how are you at this point in time. It's
Oh
really weird.
dear. Oh yeah, that
Again, it was.
would not go over well these
I know it
days.
sounds really horrible, but at the same time, again, it's not as seedy as I sort of. According to them, they were kind of
And a
questioning.
bowling alley, no less. You can't get more seedy than a bowling
I know,
alley.
right? That's the thing. It's just, and they've said, yeah, it sounds really bad now, but in the '80s, he's to a
Oh
bowling alley, and
god.
they kind of took him aside. Again, there was a male writer and a female writer, and they kind of basically it's like giving the sex talk to complete strangers. It's essentially what they were
Oh
doing.
Jesus Christ, that sounds so uncomfortable.
It does, and again, that's what kind of that kind of that's basically what we see at the end result of with again. It was I guess it was all worth it because we get kind of the stuff with Josh here. So at the end of the day, I guess
Sure.
and they kind of settled on this, by the way. So again, if anyone has any reservations, just so you know what the logic was for a lot of this, is that they kind of went by the kind of the bar mitzvah rule here, where Josh either has turned 13 with that birthday party, or he was basically 13 already. The point is, they settled on he would be age 13 before this happened, which would be kind of like the whole you become a man when you're at age 13 in the Jewish religion. So it was kind of so it was kind of a correlation that a 13 kind of expressed manhood, therefore we can get away with kind of the sex scene.
Mhm.
It's very tastefully done too. It's again the symbol of the bra at the end of the day. Just they really lingered on the bra for the movie as a thematic symbol. But again, we don't linger on it too. Again, we do just enough. It is a PG movie after all. Amazingly, it's a PG movie.
Well, it was a movie back when PG was pretty much PG-13.
Well, here's the weird thing. I think I'm trying to remember when the Temple of Doom was really early in the.
Oh, was it post?
Yeah,
Was
the rating was
13?
after Temple of Doom. Yeah, Temple
Really?
after Temple of Doom, you had PG-13. I'm just trying to think how long it took to get that instituted, because Temple of Doom was Raiders was in '81. Temple of Doom was a few years. I think '83. I think so. I want to say 84 they would have had like at least like give it like maybe 3 years.
Okay,
ago.
my bad then. My mistake.
I could be wrong about when Temple of Doom came out, but the point is like this is in '88. I don't know. The point is this may or may not have been after PG-13. But you're right though. It's right. It still was in like kind of a loosey goosey period because there's definitely something in this movie that is not PG, which we'll get to towards the end.
I think it's the homely quality and the really nice message that maybe kind of elevated it to a PG instead of PG-13.
Like I give it a PG, no problem, because I mean I think it earned it. Because again, like, it's the thing you want to explore. These are morals that kind of express to kids that no, don't be in a hurry to grow up, or else you're gonna end up like Tom Hanks in this movie, which was like kind of in a weird situation. You don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we had that great cut after they had a night together, where Josh is now kind of symbolic. He's a man. He's drinking coffee now, and he's on the upswing of again. He's kind of now dressing in suits and everything. He's very much unlike the Josh we had seen for the majority of the movie. Now he's kind of grown up Josh, but at the same time, in like some great examples here in this little dinner date situation, he's using his youth to an advantage and to selfless causes. Like he's helping the kid with his math homework, and he's impressing people like, "Oh yes, I studied math and I studied history," which is not a lie. He did, and that's how he knows like the Columbus facts and everything. Yeah, really clever. And me, Tig, I'm always a sucker, especially in Spielberg movies. This is, of course, this kind of has something that's usually in a Spielberg movie that I like. Is I love evolution of a character, like of a character's methods, or of just kind of like how a character operates. And we kind of have that with how Josh goes from the apartment to the to the low rent apartment
sure.
to the job, all that stuff. So I love all to me, it's like kind of my catch me if you can thing. Like I love just that evolution of methods and circumstance. Of course, now Josh, again, he's being thrusted in beyond manhood here, where now he's going to be in corporate manhood, which is, okay, you got to give him a pitch, buddy boy. You can't just question the pitch. You got to give him a pitch. And, we're seeing he and Susan as a unit here, where, she believes in him. Where, again, Josh is definitely the idea man, but Susan has the corporate know-how, and they are very supportive of each other. And again, like time has passed. Now, I'd roughly assume now there's a question of does a year pass in this movie. I'm not opposed to thinking a year passes because again we know we go beyond 6 weeks. That's as much as we know, and a birthday does
It's
happen.
interesting, Dragon, because I'm pretty sure, if not a film theory about it, I'm pretty sure at the very least there's been, different YouTube videos about the subject of how much time passes in Big. It's kind of a hotly debated topic, believe it or not.
It's like maybe like basically close to a year, if not a year, because of that birthday. But of course, anyone can have a birthday like a month or so after the thing. So that's the real. But you're right. I'm sure someone has actually calculated the thing because there's like a date on the milk carton, so maybe that'd help. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Of course, now I gotta imagine this is a really nice scene between the two of them here. I mean, I love it. Again, it's like the schoolgirl again. Like as he's growing up, she's becoming this schoolgirl in love, and at the same time, he's still that. While Josh is growing and he's enthralling himself in the grown-up world, he still at his core is that kid. By the same token, in the scene, we still see him acting as a kid here, where it's like the whole. Basically, she's asking, "Do you like me? Like me?" That's kind of that's the way he played it. She's asking, "Does our relationship have a future? Are we more than like a little trouncy affair? Like what are we?" And he's like, and he's basically playing like, "Oh, don't make me say I like you." That's kind of the way he's playing this scene, and it's great. It's a perfect little reaction. Oh, you adorable. Of course, while it was adorable, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of comic abuse in this scene, which kind of makes me cringe a little bit. But that's just me, and I guess like a number of comic book fans are like, "Oh man, it's a great scene, really nice with the character motivations, and really nice with the relationship ever growing." But I mean, do they have to throw around the comic books? They have to use a book like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like literally like a snowball fight with comics. That's pretty much what they're having. Well, coming up. What I'm saying, look at the charm on these two here. Where like she's looking like I don't know what's going on. I like him, but I'm feeling so insecure, and he's just like hitting me like I'm one of the guys. What is that supposed to mean? That's some old fashioned product placement here. Back when product placement was classy, at like Pizza Hut, it's like it's in the scene, It's like
Are you
they're
kidding, Inner Dragon? This is the exact kind of product placement that Wayne's World would make fun of. I mean, it's not exactly not classy, but it's not exactly subtle either.
I mean, it's there enough, It's there to sell the product, but it's not like in your
It's better
face.
than like Man of Steel taking place in a fucking IHOP. I'll give it that much.
I'm saying it's like the Lorax and the whole IHOP thing with that. It's not. It's not pushing it like that.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so here I'd wager. Would you say this is the low point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love this scene. This scene might be my second favorite scene in the movie.
Here we
Just
have.
how far Josh has come, but not necessarily in the best of ways. It kind of goes to show the moral. Like he's grown as a person, but is that for the best of reasons? Is that really healthy to his development?
Exactly, because again, Josh isn't necessarily in the wrong. This happened to him, and he has a choice. But by the same token, again, he's making a choice for selfish reasons. He does have a family, and even taking that out of the equation, again, he's not have all this. He has to have someone who accepts him as he is in full truth, which is going to be hard to sell. So he needs to be fully honest with everybody here, even if it's going to be a hard sell. But it's an argument to be made, though.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we had I was teasing this earlier on. Billy dropped the F bomb, an F bomb in a PG movie.
Right, right.
Which again, I mean, I guess the whole PG-13 rule. If you look at some certain PG movies back in the day, you can still like sometimes they slip in some curse words. Particularly, I think some have gotten away with an F bomb, but this is I guess
I
one
want
of
to
those
say The Sandlot.
I would assume the Sandlot, sure.
Uh,
But yeah, and again, this is what and this is the thing on a rewatch. It really dawned on me, like, oh yeah, they really were going for a whole like choice is a huge theme of the movie. To be, if you could be big by in asking for, like, what would you choose? It's almost like a cat in a hat sort of thing. T. It's like if you were these kids, would you tell your mother or not? It's like one of those things. Like, okay, if you were
right,
basket
right.
shoes, would you ask to be big, or would you just kind of live out your days as a child? And again, Josh is kind of now, T, I'm really interested to see what your read on this scene because I feel this is kind of one of those litmus test scenes here, where it's kind of it's not really outlined, but I read it as Josh is playing the game and he wins and he gets what he wants, but it's going to be unsatisfying because it's not an achievement. As a kid, like with all these, like the parents telling you to take out the trash and everything, if you could win while all that's going on, that's an achievement. If you're an adult, just kind of living, doing anything you want, that's not much of an achievement. Just kind of playing games and doing what you want. It's like it's not a
I
challenge.
mean, I gotta tell you, Dragon, I never really read that much into the scene, but I love that read on it. I really do. And that is very relatable to me. To me, the analogy I would almost make is something like Netflix. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, and I've had discussions with my coworker about this. Back in the day, it'd be really, really like you're flipping through the channels on TV all day, hoping to find something good to watch. And now that we have everything at our disposal, now that streaming services are basically like the way that we consume entertainment, it's not quite as special anymore. Any individual thing is not quite as special because it's just all at our fingertips. We don't have to work for it.
Everything's on, but nothing's on. Schrodinger's TV.
Exactly, exactly.
So real quick, I love just a little fashion out here. I like the coat that Tom Hanks is wearing there. Really nice.
Mhm.
But something occurred to me with this scene. Again, it plays fine. Again, it's a wholesome movie. It plays fine here, and again, circa '80s. But I gotta tell you, it's like here's the thing. Just Josh again. He's basically making he's formulating his choice, and he's getting to the point of making the big decision, which he's kind of trying to enact in the following scene here. But you have kind of Josh kind of going around and kind of seeing the old life that he had, just kind of walking around. And again, it's kind of Josh is kind of looking there, standing in broad views, kind of looking at kind of like children playing in the leaves and like school pictures being taken, school premises. I mean, I don't think I think it would be more suspect now than it
All
was
right,
then.
all right. This movie was made in a different time.
And look, I'm not taking points away. I'm just kind of saying occurred to me like a real. It's like, yeah, that's a little. I didn't think of that back then. All right, so this is a good scene here. This is
But
kind of
this is the scene where he confesses, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Lays it all on Front Street. And again, Josh is doing what he's supposed to here, what morally he should do. Again, it's not going to go well because how would this go well? How do you sell per again? Unless you have like a shimmy shammy song, this isn't going to go well with a complete stranger.
I feel like it kind of goes like a happy medium in terms of like at the very least it doesn't go quite as poorly as when he attempts to explain it to the mother. I mean, she still thinks he's insane, but
Yeah, and I love that this is the only thing in the movie that borders on conventional, where, okay, he tells her the thing that she thinks is crazy and she'll never believe it. Of course, however, the big thing that stops us from being fully conventional, I think what saves this as a whole, is that we pay this off where she's on board with it later on. If we didn't do that, this thing would be like, yeah, and we were doing so well for the whole movie, and then we stopped it with the big bit with the relationship we all care about, and then it's like, but no, I think they stuck the landing on it.
mm,
I mean, you know what the touching thing for me is, and of course it really gets said later, but I'll tease it here. I love that at the end of the day, she was the only reason for him to stay. I think there's something so romantic about this. It's so beautiful. It's like the perfect line you could have said to her later on. It's. I think they almost wrote themselves into a corner of like, this is all really sad stuff. How do you have like a comforting line in what this woman's been through? It's like the only reason I would have stayed was for you. It's like that's beautiful, man.
mm.
Like I had more reasons to go than to stay, but it's all really so nice. And again, I think Prudence is playing this very well and really relatable about it. It's like she opened herself up, very vulnerable, and again, Josh has been there in every capacity for her. But at this point, it's like what, you're just if you're not going to be here for me, we're going to still work together. She's kind of doing the Kim Luxer thing. We're still in this together. I'm not going to talk to you right now, but we're still in this together. You and I have a pitch together, working together. You sort out your stuff, and we'll sort it out later.
Mhm.
I noticed this is like a little thing I noticed on a rewatch too, is that Billy he's tearing down things on his little bulletin board. And he's tearing down reminders of Josh, which are like the New York sign and everything. Like, it's like it wasn't just pictures of Josh. It was like I heart New York and everything. He just had a really, again, that was a really, I guess, traumatizing experience for him with the way he went through with Josh in New York, because they were, for possibly a year they were hanging out, and then Josh just kind of abandoned them. This is a beautiful scene right here with Mrs. Baskin. It's again, this, I think this is Penny Marshall's directing at its finest here, where again it feels like I don't know why I see a lot of Penny Marshall in the mother character. I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe it's just she feels kind of like almost like a New Jersey type mom. I don't know. I mean that in a complimentary way, but it's like something like really real about this scene where she says, "You got a new haircut." No, I didn't. I don't know. Something really human about that scene. I think what this does with Billy here is that Billy's given up on Josh by taking all the stuff. He's about to throw away the walkie-talkie, but his mother, Josh's mom, convinces Billy to give him one last shot of like, you know what? I've seen what's happened to his poor mother. I'm not going to give up on him. I'm going to find the address. I'm going to give it to him and let him make his choice. So I can say I did everything I could. And that's a pretty mature thing for a kid to go through. And I think the grander purpose behind that is to show any skeptics who are watching the movie and they say wonder placing bets on what's Josh going to choose. Is he going to remain? Is he going to go back to being a kid or remain the executive guy? For anyone who's just not going to like feel where the movie's going in itself. But if anyone's like weighing the choices, like what would you do in this situation? I think that reminder with the callback to the mother is to remind the skeptics why Josh needs to come back. He has people that care about him too. Like he has a life that is waiting for him that he kind of left behind. So there's an extra little reason to go back. Again, we're kind of putting what Josh is probably weighing in himself, what he says he's been weighing on, but he had more reasons to go back than to stay, in which we've seen. One reason to stay, many reasons to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here we go, full circle with the pitch. God, Paul. Just Paul being like, I don't get it. Look at that. Look at that crap-eating grin. Look at him. Not just the innocent, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. What are you going to say now? It's one of those. And by the way, I know now we have like motion comics and there are choose your own adventure comics, but I mean, still the original pitch for like the '80s version of this does sound awesome. By the way, the digital comic book.
It's a very cool idea for sure.
It is. It is. So I had an interesting
kind of like looking at it nowadays, it's almost kind of like deconstructing technology that we're familiar with in motion comics. Like, how would that work in the 80s?
Yeah, it would have to be a practical, and you could push a button or like maybe a digital readout or something. And I believe that it is achievable, but basically, this is the fascinating thing to you. There's a reason we don't have that, and it's right here. And I always miss this, Tiki. When rewatching, jumped out to me that this is a really great idea with one big folly that Paul calls him on here. It says, what kid would pay $19 for a comic book? And this is when she puts it together. So Josh was kind of a little hot under the collar, and he kind of made the decision, you know what? I'm not cut out for this. I'm a kid. I'm not cut out for the business world. I can't field these questions. And he kind of like a kid, he panics and he runs away. And in panic, he's made the decision. That's really where he's running to. But I'm saying that's when it dawns on him that I'm not cut out for this. And what she just did is again, the realizations I'm talking about here, like really well-directed realizations in this movie. I think she puts together that, oh my God, that's a thing a kid, that he would pitch that because only a kid would think of like, hey, $19 for a comic book. The big logic flaw in the whole plan is what wakes her up to the fact that, oh my God, he is a kid. Only a kid would come up with that. I think that's really clever. I missed that all these years. Like why did she run out of the room? Like, now I have the reason.
Uh-huh.
I'd like the build up to these two meeting each other. The two symbols of like Josh's adult life and Josh's kid life kind of meeting each other. And with this ridiculously awesome line of, "Who are you? I'm his girlfriend." You. Great exchange. He's all pleasantly, "Billy Kopecky, how are you?" The only regret I do have with that scene is that it's a shame that he doesn't get to say goodbye to McMullen, because I love that whole relationship. But it's
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It is one of the things that feels a little bit unfinished in the script.
There was really there's a beautiful deleted or extended scene they cut, and they cut it for good reason. It was that they had two scenes that would have taken the focus off of Josh, which was why they cut it. But it was going to be two scenes late at night before, well, while they were working on the pitch, I guess, where McMullen, well, before he slept with Susan, McMullen told him about like he's getting nostalgic for the old days of toy making, where he did Robert Loggia was doing this beautiful thing. He was talking about like creating a wooden duck, and he came up with like putting the duck's head on a hinge, which is revolutionizing the old wooden duck concept. And two of them are really talking. It's a really beautiful scene, but it was all about Robert Loggia. It was all about McMullen, and she had a scene too where the two of them were just being kind of cutesy, and like McMullen saw her like walking out from Josh's office late at night. It's like, oh, you two kids, that's it was really nice. But you gotta draw a line somewhere. This is great. I love how eerie this is. And again, we're doing a lot with very little, where we're putting on like a deserted boardwalk of some kind. And all we have is, he puts the coin there, removes the plug, and we have wind blowing some leaves. That's all we have, but it has so much dramatic.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like a big special effects moment when it really isn't at all.
Yeah. Like the only special effect is like praying to God this thing works. Like let's hope the mechanisms hold up in this old Zoltar machine. If anything, I think again, presumably it lights up on its own too, depending what quality machine they got. So it's okay. Just get a Zoltar machine. That's our effect.
Oh,
that was their effects budget. It's pretty much like maybe a wind machine and Zoltar. That's all we need. That and some nice cameras. And it's always so sad that again, everything worked out the way it should have, I guess, but the fact that she missed him by that much at every turn, they're chasing him down. Like she missed him in the elevator, missed him in the car, and now like she shows up right after the wish was made.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel soap opera-y. It feels like, again, it just feels like you're so engrossed in the story, like it all just, it's all just a confluence of events that just, sometimes life happens this way. It just kind of feels like. And this might be Elizabeth Perkins at her best here. This might be one of the best scenes she does in this movie. Just put it together, and of course he mentioned the Zoltar machine, so she's got it all there. She knows what's happened. She knows that she's too late. But again, she goes through such an evolution in her reaction, Tiki. She goes from a place of course she's involved in the relationship where she's bummed out, but then she realizes in the conversation, oh well, he was 13, which is kind of sick and wrong. I get it, but she didn't know. and basically you're putting together like, yeah, it's for the best, but what, it hurts so much. And again, he kind of cushions the blow best he can with the whole I tried to tell you last night, and then yeah, it wouldn't have worked out, but you're the one thing, you're the one reason to stay, if that makes anything feel better. And it kind of does for her. She feels wanted, she feels desired, she feels the relationship was genuine, she's validated, which is important. Really again, she's playing it like that wounded, like basically if she was a schoolgirl, now she's the high school sweetheart. That's kind of where they're at with it now. It's like she's kind of like the whole, I thought this was going to last forever.
Right.
And again, I love she's holding out hope with like 17 or 18. It's like, like how old or yeah.
13, ooh. Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yep. So kind of sad and tragic here, where it's just like she releases from the hug when she hears 13. You see her like, oh. Again, this poor woman here, she goes through so much, but again, I don't know, it's so bittersweet but optimistic. It doesn't feel bittersweet in the end. Like this scene feels bittersweet, but again, it has a happy ending somehow.
Yeah, I would say the whole last section of this movie feels that way.
They bring it up in dialogue.
Sweet but hopeful.
They bring it up in dialogue here, but what's interesting is they actually considered using the Zoltar. They were mostly joking, but they did throw out the pitch when they were pitching the whole movie in that 2-hour kind of conversation, that at the end of the movie, she would use the Zoltar machine to become a girl, to be, kind of grow up. Basically, she would follow his act and become a girl.
I'm really glad they didn't go in that direction.
And what they did so cleverly was they worked that into the dialogue where it's like, what about you? Why don't you come with me? He says, oh, no, I've been through that already. That's like, oh, wait, you don't know what that's like. And that's a beautiful scene right there. It's like, that's how you address, like, for anyone wondering, what if she did? Why don't you just use another coin or something? Like, no, no, no. That's an easy solution. That would cheapen the movie. We're not going to do that, but we will call it into question.
Again, that feels like something a hypothetical shitty remake that I don't want to will into existence would do.
Yeah. Because you got to watch that Colbert thing. They kind of make a joke about a big film. And
So
again,
this final scene is really it really gets to me, Dragon.
I mean, this is what makes it this is what kind of makes it uplifting in some route, where again she was. This is where we bring it back to the maternal thing, but it's maternal enough, it's maternal enough in that she knows where the line's drawn, and she's driving him back, and it's like she's like taking him back to where she belongs to. Like, I love how she's involved in returning him to where he once was. So I love that she's rewarded for the strife that she's endured with the big revelation of Josh being a kid. So like she's rewarded in some capacity. But this image here, where she kisses him on the forehead, speaks volumes of like they had a great love, but it's not meant to be. It's not meant to go on that way. And they both know. They both give that look. They're not sad though. They're both. They're both. They both accept it. They both accept it.
Yeah, and I like watching the movie for the first time this past year. I didn't know where it was going to go, so this whole there was kind of a genuine suspense of, I assumed he'd turn back into a kid by the end, but I didn't know. But B, I didn't know we get such a masterfully done final shot with the little kid in the adult suit. It's almost a haunting image to end out on in a way.
It is, and again, they're doing less with more because they do three things here. One, we have the great magic hour lighting, which again, we had a kind of a deserted kind of a lifeless thing on the pier, where it was kind of a dreary kind of lighting on the pier. And now we have this golden lighting of like there's a comfort, there's a warmness to it, and now we have this great less is more effect of we the audience don't see it, but she does. She sees him turn into a kid. But it's almost like like the end of Monsters Inc. where Sully sees Boo, but we don't see Boo. It's kind of like one of those things where she sees what she.
My favorite example of this is in The Leftovers. We never see anyone actually disappear.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
I love that show. I know that show's completely unrelated to the conversation, but anytime I have a chance to bring it up.
Well, there's unexplained disappearances or magic.
So,
big correlation. And I love the choice. Again, okay, I'm going to redact my previous thing. So this is like the Monsters Inc. thing. We don't see the reunion, but we know about it here. Where
yeah, for sure.
Like, we see just Josh, his mother being reunited with him here is kind of beautiful, and the fact that not seeing it was a smart choice artistically. And it looks like it's Halloween, but
I feel like it's something that a shitty remake would really dwell on longer than it needs to.
Also, let's notice something. There's a pumpkin on their porch, which implies it's either Halloween or maybe November. So so again, time is definitely more than a lot of time has passed. A lot more than 6 weeks has passed. Maybe not a year, but definitely close to it. And again, and this to me it's a simple choice. We go full circle. The two boys walking down the streets, getting back to their lives. You're not talking about what happened. There's kind of going on with again. They're going forward. They're going forward in the future. They're growing up together. However, we do play heart and soul underneath it all there. So I like that Josh did kind of take something away with the experience, and we express that musically, along with in the previous scene we had the great Howard Shore music. It's all really, it's like a little cherry on top that he picks out of the sundae and he grosses everybody out with, but it's a cherry on top all the same.
Right, so that will about do it. Dragon, final thoughts on your end?
And by the way, we should end on what we're thankful for.
What we're thankful for.
Yeah, so like basically at the end of this, so after I get my final thoughts and after you do, I'll ask you when you ask me what
okay, fair enough.
Okay, so final thoughts for me. This movie's a classic. It's magic. Stars aligned for this thing in every capacity to make it happen. It had all the right people. Penny Marshall, Gary Ross, and Spielberg, and of course the X Factor and all of it, Tom Hanks and David Moscow. Because again, all the great stuff we have with Tom Hanks, we don't have without that kid too. I don't mean to underwrite the kid. Just in case I did, I want to shout him out here. David Moscow was in it. It was a very he was tied to Tom Hanks and making this movie as successful as it was, and that's important. Good kid acting, folks. So for me, it's the Dave of Tom Hanks films. I love Dave. Dave's like a pleasant film all around. Had the writer of Dave, hence the correlation. In that it showcases a kind of a nice. It kind of showcases Tom Hanks's nice all-American qualities. That's kind of what it does. And it's kind of the nice all-American, like, yeah, that's why he's ingrained in the cultures. Like he's an apple pie. He's a walking apple pie man. That's what Tom Hanks is. That's kind of what this movie is. This is it's an example. I'm going to quote Disney here. It's kind of an example of an unspoiled spot of cinema. It's kind of what this is an example of. It's and that's not a bad thing in film at all. It's not a bad thing in film at all to have an unspoiled spot here and there. One of those films it's one of those films that reflects on the actor and they'll remember him for. And I think if there's one film to remember Tom Hanks for, aside from Toy Story for me, and basically all the young fans of Tom Hanks, I'm sure are definitely going to go towards Toy Story. A lot of us nostalgically are going to go towards Toy Story. But I think if there's one role Tom Hanks is going to be remembered for, some people might say Forrest Gump. I think at the end of the day, though, it's got to be Big. Big's the one they're going to remember him for.
Oh, don't even open the door about Forrest Gump, man.
I know, but just circling back to, again, Big's the one that, like, using the Ed Wood philosophy, this is the one they're going to remember me for. They're going to remember him for Big. Okay.
Yeah, Dragon, I can't say it better myself. I mean, the thing that sticks out to me about this movie is that it could have just, again, Dragon, for some reason, this conversation just keeps doubling back for me. My mind keeps going to this horrifying hypothetical remake. The hypothetical remake would just be gags. There would be no heart to it. It'd just be like a series of sight gags. Although I could see Mark Wahlberg as Billy.
Okay,
I don't know why. I could see Mark Wahlberg as is kind of I'm sorry, not Billy. I could see Mark Wahlberg playing Josh, playing the main character.
Yeah, I could buy that.
I don't know. For some reason, maybe it's the Ted thing, but
wouldn't remake it. But yeah, if someone did, I mean, yeah, I think it's for the Ted thing purely. But also, Mark Wahlberg needs to do more comedies. More comedies for Wahlberg, darn it.
Anyways, but yeah, it's just a very, it's just kind of a cinematic icon. It's an institution in a way. It's, the only thing that would make it more of a cinematic icon is if for some reason Christmas was involved somehow. You know what I mean? It's just, it's American. It just makes you feel good. But I also admire how ambitious it is in terms of, in terms of just giving you, Dragon, me. I have an issue with movies with mixed tones. And I feel like this movie could have had that issue if they didn't play it right. This movie could have very much been like like an old school version of Click, where it's like, we have the dumb jokes and then also the really dramatic, hefty moments. And that's something for me where if you're going to go for both comedy and drama, you're going to have to really do it right. I'm a stickler for that kind of stuff. And this movie just hits it right out of the park in that regard. It's just a great kind of cross section of subgenres, and it's a wonderful piece of work.
Yeah. All right. So Tiki, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
I mean, I'm just I'm thankful that to kind of build in some Toy Story 4 hype. I'm thankful that Toy Story 4 sounds as good as it does, and that Tom Hanks got really emotional about the ending of Toy Story 4. Apparently, that gives me hope. Dragon. I'm crossing my fingers for that one. I'm thankful for the Woody character as a whole, because I think we can all agree that character just is an institution in all our lives, just a giant benchmark, cinematic achievement in terms of just a character that we can all root for and love. I'm just, I can't do the thankful thing, man. It's too easy. Go ahead.
Well, you could have kept it simple, but for me, I'm thankful for. Of course, I'm always going to be thankful for Sheriff Woody, but that's I could bring that up at other points in Thanksgiving's illustrious history. The point is, I'm always going to be thankful for Woody, but beyond that, more relating to this, I'm thankful for Tom Hanks adding a soul to his work and adding those little human touches that go the extra mile and again become American institutions. All right.
All right, that'll do it for us, folks. Of course, there will definitely be podcasts between now and Thanksgiving, but we wanted to get the Thanksgiving thing out there when we could, and this will be a yearly tradition for us. But until then, until next year, have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Somebody's poison in the
I
water
get it.
hole.
That's the guy from Big. Funny guy, Tom Hanks. Everything he says is funny.